Well, if you thought that America looks at Minnesota as the absolute laughingstock of the 50 states, well, you are 100% right. When people think of Minnesota, they think of the anti-Semite Ilhan Omar, knucklehead Tampon Tim Walz, two of the worst senators that we've ever had in the Senate. And now we can add one more thing to the list. Former Minnesota Vikings punter has made a complete fool out of himself, equating the MAGA movement with the Nazi movement of the 1930s. We've got a lot to dig into here, and a really crazy video to show you. But before we get into it, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. So, if Minnesota has not had enough embarrassments yet, we are complete embarrassment. Former Minnesota Vikings punter Chris Kluwe was arrested at a Southern California City Council meeting on Tuesday for civil disobedience when he made his way towards the City Council member seat after making some pretty radical remarks. Obviously, police quickly stopped and arrested him, but let's just take a listen in real quick here.
Unfortunately, it's clear that this council does not listen, so instead I'm going to take my time to say what MAGA has stood for these past 3 weeks. MAGA stands for trying to erase trans people from existence. MAGA stands for resegregation and racism. MAGA stands for censorship and book bans. MAGA stands for firing air traffic controllers while planes are crashing. MAGA stands for
lies. They did not fire a single air traffic controller, you lying POS.
Firing the people overseeing our nuclear arsenal. MAGA stands for firing military veterans and those serving them at the VA, including canceling research on veteran suicide. MAGA stands for cutting funds to education, including for disabled children. MAGA is profoundly corrupt, unmistakably anti-democracy, and most importantly, MAGA is explicitly a Nazi movement. You may have replaced a swastika with a red hat, but that is what it is. I will now engage in the time-honored American tradition of peaceful civil disobedience.
Get the heck! Get out!
Unfortunately, it's clear.
And this is exactly what the Democrats are all about. It's all about theatrics. There's no substance to it. It's all about theatrics, calling people Nazis. That's what it's all about. That is all that they have. And then he went on CNN. Let's bring that up here real quick. Went on CNN afterwards. Let's take a listen to what he had to say over on CNN. And actually, I'm going to listen to this one right here.
I believe we're on the path that Nazi Germany went down under Hitler, and I say that as a political science and history major, as someone who has studied history, and the parallels are very, very clear. This administration is trying to erase trans people. This administration is trying to put obedience over duty to the country.
These people are crazy. Erase trans people? Like, what the hell does that even mean? Sorry, we don't recognize your mental illness as a reality? How is it erasing you? You're still a person. You can still go vote. You can do anything you want. Anything you want. But you're not going to go around demanding that other people, A, call you by specific pronouns, and B, you're not going to go around demand to use female locker rooms, female restrooms, and be on female sports teams. It's as simple as that. You want to be a transgender? Sure. Do whatever you want. But first of all, if minors not going to happen, are not going to get surgically or chemically, they're not going to get transitioned. That's number one. You can't demand that. Number two, you can't demand that other people use the pronouns that you want. Freedom of speech, it may be respectful to you, but you cannot demand it. It is not a hate crime when someone misgenders you. It's as simple as that. And you're just not doing it to minors, but just more proof that college is a scam. I totally agree. This dude is just freaking nuts. You want to erase trans people? They're still people. Like, no one is like, unlike in Nazi Germany when they took millions and millions of Jews and literally erased them, turned them into ashes, literally. It's like this guy is, and this is what the left is all about. It's all about theatrics. It's about big, bold statements that mean absolutely nothing. These words mean nothing. And this is all because Huntington Beach Community and Library Service Commission approved a plan that would install a plaque to mark the library's 50th anniversary. Now, You may ask, what's going on? Why are you so mad, bro? What's going on? But it's because the plaque included 2 American flags in the word magical, alluring, galvanizing, and adventurous. Now, if you look at that, the first letter of each word, what does that spell out? Magical, alluring, galvanizing, adventurous. It spells out MAGA. And Kluwe, this guy just went nuts over it. Just went nuts. And goes on to continue to describe it as a Nazi movement. That this is somehow, we're a Nazi movement. You know, I remember that the Nazis were the one who stripped away freedom of speech, not the party that supported freedom of speech. The Nazi movement was the one who consolidated all the power to one person. With our party, we're trying to shrink the power of the federal government. We're trying to shrink the size and scope of the federal government. It's like, what a joke. If someone looks at Minnesota, this is what they see. We can now have one of the most liberal, probably one of the most uneducated punters, and really just, it's not even about if he's uneducated or not. It just really has to do that he's a complete moron. Because this is what people look at when they see Minnesota. They see a representative who spews anti-Semitic remarks on a regular basis, has been a major critic of Israel defending themselves. Israel's right to defend themselves has been a major critic of it. We have a state that wanted to do everything we could to block an arms sale back in November to Israel so they could defend themselves. We have a failed vice presidential candidate, probably the worst VP pick in modern history. And who knows? Who knows? Now he's been exposed to the true radical leftist he is. Who knows if he'll even get elected here when he runs for re-election in 2026? He's been exposed on the national stage of how much of a knucklehead he is. Self-described knucklehead. Described person who makes friends with school shooters. What the fuck? Like, is this serious?
He knows who I
Let's take a listen. Let's take a listen into the knucklehead. Let's just relive what we're missing out on.
am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right.
Just like the Daily Wire says, yes, Tim, we are very well aware you're a knucklehead at times. At times. Let's listen over to what Ilhan Omar has to say about basically calling people, Democrats in the primary, literal Nazis.
This campaign has been one of the ugliest, most disgusting campaign against me that I have ever witnessed. We had an opponent that was willing to align with literal Nazis in order to defeat us. We had
calling Democrat primary voters literal Nazis. Oh my gosh. This lady who elected her. And if you thought it wasn't worse, they're all rubbing each other up about it. Let's take a listen.
Great senators. Something I'll never get tired of saying, I think all of you, Congresswoman Omar, wonderful.
God, how sick. Never get tired of saying? How sick. You know, and like we said, if it's not bad enough, we have 2 senators from Minnesota that have fought hard to turn America into California. They want California to be the standard bearer for the country, who want to support mass illegal migration and then want us to turn around and give them amnesty and then complain when people don't vote for it. And some of the most radical senators and representatives who did everything they could to rapidly advance the Biden agenda. And it's safe to say right now that Minnesota is a national embarrassment. Such a beautiful state represented by such embarrassments of human beings. Like the embodiment of an embarrassment are Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, Tina Smith, Amy Klobuchar, and now this nut job who was a pretty crappy punter for the Vikes for a number of years, who was allegedly might have been fired because he supported LGBTQ rights, but of course it was disproven. According to him, he was fired because he supported LGBTQ rights, but it's just Minnesota. If you've ever been there, it is a beautiful state. You go up to the Boundary Waters, you go up to northern Minnesota, you even go down to the bluffs in southern Minnesota, just a beautiful state. Tarnished by mass migration, mass asylum seekers coming into Minnesota, tarnished by out-of-control left-wing politicians, if you can even call them that, who want to do everything we can to turn us into the next California and want to deteriorate values in Minnesota to where we're like Somalia. It's just sick. It's sick, and we are an embarrassment here. That's my hot take for the day. Minnesota is a national embarrassment. Let me know what your thoughts. Is there anything I missed out on? Was there something I missed on why Minnesota is even more of a national embarrassment? But that's going to wrap it up for today. Like, share, comment down below, and as always, we'll see you next time.